Beloved watchers, tender hearts, night owls from every corner of the world, welcome to a brand new chapter from Whispers of Turkish Stars. Tonight we don't drift through rumor for rumor's sake, we lean in close to a story of return, of a pulse rediscovered under the same Istanbul sky that has watched countless beginnings and endings. This is about two names whose chemistry once ignited an era and whose distance taught us the weight of silence, Gökberk Yıldırım and Cemre Arda. Before we step into this softfire tale, if you believe love can outlast time's long winter, make sure you subscribe, tap that bell, and, more than anything, click join to support these deep dives and become part of the Whispers of Turkish Stars circle. Your presence is the invisible engine behind every truth we bring to the light. Are you ready to hear how a buried bridge found its arches again? It started the way the biggest storms do, with air so still it felt like glass. Recently, Gökberk Yıldırım appeared on a late-night talk show to unveil a bold new project, the kind that demands courage and patience in equal measure. He was flawless, a tailored suit, measured composure, a sovereign calm that has always been his armor. But his eyes, the unguarded portals that true fans have read for years, told a second story. You could sense a heaviness that the studio lights couldn't dissolve. The host, hungry for a headline, nudged the conversation toward private roads. Instead of retreating behind stock phrases, Gökberk offered a small smile that looked more like it hurt than it soothed, and said, almost to himself, that sometimes the words we swallow roar louder than anything we speak. It wasn't a complaint, or a charge laid at anyone's feet. It was the confession of someone who's felt alone in crowded rooms. In that instant, countless hearts heard a flare go up from a coast they thought abandoned. But it wasn't. Somewhere else, just before dawn smudged the city's silver, someone was listening. That someone was Cemre Arda. And Cemre didn't choose a press office or a choreographed segment. She chose the fastest chord we have in this era, an Instagram story. Not a glossy pose, not a throwaway caption. She posted a screenshot, a snatch of the past, a line salvaged from the archives of a conversation that mattered. The image held a quiet sentence glowing like an ember, I still read you, quietly. The blast was instant. Social media didn't simmer, it flared into a collective breath held at once. It wasn't a tease. It was brave, raw, and exact, a mirror held up to what he had admitted hours earlier. Cemre was telling him, and by default telling all of us, that the thread never quite snapped, that a frequency remained open where only two people could hear. Friends of Whispers of Turkish Stars, how did your chest feel the moment you saw that story? Do you think a message, born of pixels and timing, can mend a fracture so deep? Tell us in the comments. And if you want more of this particular heartbeat, consider joining us with the join button so we can keep following their path with the care and time it deserves. According to what we've learned here at Whispers of Turkish Stars, Gökberk didn't wait for the crowd to decide what it meant. He pulled the conversation into shelter. Sources say he sent a direct message to Cemre. Ice that had stiffened their distance began to crack. He told her he hadn't realized she kept that trace, and that knowing their story might not be closed meant more than he could say. That private exchange, fragile, clandestine, necessary, was the hinge that turned everything. From that moment on, Cemre, who had kept a low profile for months, began scattering little digital breadcrumbs. The detail that set fans buzzing? A close-up of a moonsliver pendant, the very piece that, in brighter days, Gökberk had placed in her hands with a look no one forgot. Underneath the photo, just a line, some lights don't dim. Not a bauble, not a prop, but a sign, a soft flare that said what needed saying without a single name. Meanwhile, a renewed current began rippling through Gökberk's workdays. Witnesses on set, people who see everything and say nothing unless it's true, noticed the shift. He moved lighter, laughed without reason, showed up early like he couldn't wait for the hours to begin. And on his profile came a quote that turned embers into sparks, real stories don't end, they pause to breathe. It was enough to set the fan forums ringing with cautious hope. Because what else could such harmony between posts mean, if not a dialogue happening off camera and on their own terms? Together, and yet apart from the noise, they seemed to be sketching new rules for a bond that had weathered fear and pride. Tell us whom you'd like us to spotlight next in our long-form deep dives. Are you drawn to second chances, or the fever of new beginnings? Drop your thoughts, and remember, by subscribing and tapping join, your requests move to the front of our investigations. Then came the turn that felt like a movie pressed through real life just 48 hours ago, in the elegant web of Nisantasy. Cemre was seen slipping into a venerable cafe, the exact one where, days earlier, Gökberk had been photographed staring into a cup that had more weight than coffee. The table was the same. The mood, different. Cemre didn't arrive alone, a close friend walked beside her, the kind of friend who carries a person's secrets without flinching. They huddled over a phone now and then, the way people do when the present and the possible intersect. As they stepped back onto the street, a lens caught the moment, her screen brightened, and across Semra's face, a smile unfolded like a secret blooming, tiny but unmistakably real. No confirmations, no statements. Yet an anonymous source swears the message she received had lines that stopped the breath: "If you keep reading me in quiet, I'll keep writing for you." If true, it's one of the most lyrical declarations to grace our decade, a private pledge pushing back against a world that scrolls too fast. All of it built toward last night's pinnacle at a celebrated awards ceremony. Cameras nested in the carpeted halls, reporters angled for the sentence that would end speculation. On the red carpet, the question dropped, careful, direct, and inevitable: would you try again with Cemre, if she wanted it? Time slowed in that golden corridor. Gökberk looked straight at the lens, the way a person does when he's aligned with himself, and answered softly that he never set down the tools. He was only waiting to know whether someone stood on the far side of the bridge. It wasn't grandstanding or tremble, it was steadiness made visible. In those few words lived the blueprint of loyalty, a person quietly holding their part of a structure, trusting the other end might one day send a signal back. And that signal has, undeniably, traveled. For those of us who chart the pulse of these stories, this is a landmark moment. If you want Whispers of Turkish Stars to keep watching every careful step that Gökberk and Cemre take, click join. Your support keeps us where the heart of the story beats. The coming weeks could redraw their professional skies. There are murmurs, humming louder by the day, that several production houses are mapping out a reunion project tailored to the gravity they share. A modern melodrama built for two people whose on-screen electricity has never needed help. But the signs that matter most aren't on sets. They're small, human signals. Cemre has resumed following parts of Gökberk's circle, rekindling bridges between friends and colleagues. Their captions have begun to flirt with a language only they seem to understand. A stray crescent here, a violet there, the kind of coded warmth that makes longtime followers ache with recognition. The truth doesn't whisper anymore. We're watching winter give way. The thaw is real. What do we learn from them? That pride and fear look like stone walls until a single message turns them to paper. That a bridge, if it was built on something sound, can be crossed again, perhaps not the way you crossed it the first time, but with steps that remember the cost of falling. And that love, when held with both hands, can be patient without being passive. To everyone who rode this long breath with us at Whispers of Turkish Stars, thank you. Leave a like, send your wishes for Gökberk, Yıldırım and Cemre Arda into the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss the next heartbeat in this story. If you're ready to walk even closer with us, the join button is waiting, and with it, early access, deeper threads, and a front row seat to what happens next. From all of us at Whispers of Turkish Stars, where the pulse outruns the headline, we send our best. Until the next spark lights the sky.